Hello, 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 and welcome to the High Altitude Investing live stream. Today is May 17th, my birthday, actually. So I just turned 28 years old today. It's crazy to think about, especially since when I started this channel, I was like 17 or 18 or somewhere around there. Don't remember exactly. I'd have to go calculate, but I was pretty young when I started this YouTube channel. So kind of crazy to think about, all the fun that I've had, all the ups and downs and wins and losses and just everything I've learned over the past who knows exactly how many years. It's been quite the ride. I'd have to go look to see when my YouTube channel was actually first created. But I'm pretty sure it was like 9 years ago, almost 10 years ago, maybe even 10, which is kind of crazy. So anyways, feels good to have my birthday today. Operation Shutdown. Hello, welcome. Street Workout. Hey, what's up? Thank you for tuning in. It's a good day to be in crypto land. Let's pull up some charts here and talk a little bit about the markets. Sammy Dragon, good morning, bro. Got some time to watch today. I'm going to go gold panning later with my wife. Got my eyes on BCH and Chronos, as always. Nice. Yeah. Good to go gold panning. That's really cool. I actually have done a little bit of gold panning myself throughout my life, which is kind of cool. I had a lot of fun doing it, and my friend has a dredge. He goes out to Idaho and does a little bit of gold panning stuff out there in Idaho, or dredging out there in Idaho, and kind of cool. So Operation Shutdown says happy birthday, and same with Street Workout. Thank you guys. I really appreciate that. I appreciate the kind words. Let's see how I'm just kind of curious here. I think you can check to see how old a YouTube channel is. Yeah, joined February 21st of 2016. So I made this YouTube channel 9 years ago, which is pretty crazy to think about. It's 2025, May 17th, 2025, and I made this channel February 21st of 2016. So that's just a little over 9 years ago that I made this YouTube channel. So it's kind of crazy to think that I was like 18 years old, I think, when I made this channel. And now I was like a little bit older than 18, like maybe 19 or somewhere around there. Yeah, I would have been 19 years old. No, 18 years old, I think, because I made it in February. So, yeah, pretty crazy. So let's talk about Bitcoin. So we are at major resistance right now. It's obviously possible for us to push up through resistance, but it's also totally possible for us to pull back just a little bit here. So just keep your eyes on that. I definitely wouldn't be trying to take massive amounts of profits up here, because what I see happening is something very similar to what happened over here on Bitcoin when Bitcoin started to break out of 73K and head up towards 106K. So if we do get a bit of a pullback here, I don't think it's going to go like a massive rejection like this and go crazy down or anything like that. It would be more of a healthy style correction where Bitcoin pulls back just a little bit before it pushes up higher. But it is totally possible for that to happen since we are at major resistance right now. We're right there at that major all-time high resistance. So just be aware of that major resistance. Now, in the bigger picture, what's really happening here for Bitcoin is something quite beautiful. If you go to the 15-day candlesticks, you guys can see that we do have a very, very nice established uptrend that's multiple years long. This uptrend's been going on for a long time now. In fact, the Coinbase chart doesn't even do it justice. You actually have to go over to the the Bitcoin Liquid Index, the BLX chart, and come over here and switch to the log scale. And then this does it justice. I mean, look how long and how sustained the Bitcoin bull market is since 2011. This thing is in a massive uptrend, and the trend is your friend. That's the nature of markets. You want to ride that trend and bet that that trend is going to continue with corrections and with bear markets along the way up. But overall, in the big picture, Bitcoin has been in a bull market since its inception, since it was created, since it was worth a penny down here. It's been in a bull market with, like pretty short-lived bear markets. If you look at how long these are, they're only about a year long, the bear markets. The bear markets are longer sometimes for the altcoin markets. They do last a little bit longer, more like sometimes like 2 years, and they can be longer, and some of the altcoins never recover. But for Bitcoin, as far as Bitcoin goes, Bitcoin has had a sustained bull market for a long time. And so just to understand that really helps you recognize that that trend is probably going to continue. With corrections, with bear markets, yeah, but that trend is probably going to continue up, That's you definitely don't want to fight this trend. It's a very, very powerful, very sustained uptrend. So in the big picture, I think Bitcoin is going to continue to increase in value. We will continue to make higher highs and higher lows, and we will continue to establish this uptrend in the bigger time frame. So that's my view on Bitcoin. Cool. Now that we got old BTC, the mothership, out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about all of our favorite altcoins. We won't waste any more time. Well, actually, let's do the total crypto market cap as well really quick, since that's another pretty important thing to be doing for the markets. So here with the total crypto market cap, kind of a similar thing as our Bitcoin analysis here on the daily. We are at a major area of resistance up here. So we have a lot of resistance up here. It's definitely possible for us to break right through it and just go higher. But it also wouldn't surprise me at all if we do pull back just a little bit here and then build more momentum and go higher. I'm not talking about anything like this, where we go all the way down and have a big correction or anything like that. But I do think it is possible for the total crypto market cap to see just a little bit of a correction here, since we are at a major area of resistance up here, where we just pull back just a little bit like that, bounce around, and then go back up through, something like that. That's kind of what I think is potentially possible here for the total crypto market cap. Now, just like what I was saying with Bitcoin, this is not grounds to sell your crypto. I'm not saying that you should just go sell all your crypto here and, take all your long-term positions and sell out, then try to buy back right here. But it is just for the awareness of the fact that we are at resistance. So if the market pulls back, don't be afraid. Basically, you'd want to just kind of hold on to your position and try to add more down there if you can, and prepare for a breakout in the market, because I think the correction would be pretty short-lived. This isn't grounds to sell a whole bunch. It's not like something like this is going to happen, in 2021, where we had a big bear market. But I'm just talking really small type of little miniature healthy correction as possible. due to us being at all-time high resistance. At least on Bitcoin, we're not quite there for the total crypto market cap, but we're still at a major area of resistance, so just be aware of that. Happy birthday, Rico says. Thank you. I appreciate that. Professor K says happy birthday. Thank you. Multi-spec, multivitamin X says, yo, happy birthday. Hey, thank you. I really appreciate that. Good day, Dallin. What do you see in the crypto called Kea? Thanks, buddy, if you have time to check. Big Asian also says, hello, happy birthday, brother. Thank you, Big Asian. Let's go check out Kea. Maybe this would be the only place. Let's see if there's a better exchange. Maybe Uniswap. There we go. This will work. Yeah, this looks really good. So we broke out of a bit of a triangle here. You can see this nice triangle pattern here on Kea. So we broke bullish out of that. We've been in a nice uptrend since its inception over here on the 6th of March. And it just continues to break higher. So we are getting near the target for this triangle. So if you measure the target, we're basically right at the target for the triangle. But a lot of times you do go a little bit higher than that target. You can exceed the minimum target for the triangle. And yeah, I think this will probably continue in an uptrend. That would be my guess here for Kea, that we'd continue in an uptrend with pullbacks along the way up. But for now, we're looking good. We've got a nice uptrend, and that uptrend looks like it's going to continue. And you know, if you look at some of the earlier coins like Binance Coin, for example, if you look at the way Binance looks and you look at what it looked like early on, this thing just started out in an uptrend. I mean, that's what it started out in an uptrend. It did a huge impulse when it first got added to major exchanges because it got released and made available to the public right around the time that a major bull market was starting, or was really starting to go into full force there in late 2017. Then it made a triangle pattern. It broke out of the triangle. It reached the minimum target for the triangle like this. And then actually went a little bit higher than that. Then it pulled back just a little bit here in 2018, but really not that hard compared to most of the altcoins in 2018. And overall, Binance Coin has been in a continuous uptrend since its inception. And so that's what I am saying, you know, with the trend being your friend. You got to ride these trends. Find a good uptrend and keep holding on to it and let it ride. And it's pretty profitable to trade the uptrend and not try to fight it. You know, it's easy to get thinking that you can call the top on something when honestly the trend is your friend. Like, the markets are going to continue to uptrend. As long as there's a good established trend, it's going to make higher highs and higher lows. And that's what we see here with Binance, and that's also what we were seeing with Kea. So, why is the market continuously dumping? Oh, man. Oh. Can you do BTC dominance, BTCD? Let's see. Let's pull up Bitcoin dominance here. So Bitcoin dominance broke down from a rising wedge here. Let's fix this, make it a little bit better. So we do have a big rising wedge on Bitcoin dominance, and we did break bearish for Bitcoin dominance. Now, with these rising wedges, what's going to happen 90% of the time is a breakdown retest. So most of the time, if you get a rising wedge like this, and the market's moving up inside of a wedge, when it breaks bearish from that wedge, most of the time it's going to go right back up and retest the resistance of the wedge before it goes lower. And actually in my rising wedge chart that I have in the Discord, which by the way, I added some new trading patterns to this trading pattern link here in the Discord under knowledge and links. And if you go over here, you can see that in my trading patterns, I have a rising wedge. And you can see in this example where the price of the market goes up inside of this wedge, you get this huge impulse up, then you get a big pullback down, another impulse up, pull back down, another impulse up. And then when you actually break down from the rising wedge, most of the time, a good majority of the time, it goes back up to the resistance of the wedge before going lower. So just understanding that about the rising wedge pattern, very important to understand. Because like I said, a lot of times people will expect the market to just go lower, but like I said, the market's going to go back up just a little bit before it goes down. So just understand that about the market. Watching your video since 2017, came here after a long time. Hey, thank you, Prime Lawyer, for being a long time viewer of the channel, and I really appreciate you tuning in to today's live stream. Mira Jen says, hey Dallin, greetings from Canada. Hey Mira, good to see you. It's been a long time since I seen you in a live stream. It's good to see you tuning in today. And cheers, I appreciate you tuning in from Canada. It's actually my birthday today, so I'm 28 years old. Kind of crazy. Been doing this channel since 2016 of February, we calculated, which is like 9 years now, which is kind of crazy. So Megamind says, keep up the good work. Thank you. I appreciate that. Multispec Multivitamix says, been here since 2017 too. Thank you. Kevin says, happy birthday, and thank you, Kevin. I appreciate the birthday wishes. Thank you, Prime Lawyer, for the birthday wishes as well. So yeah. What coins do you guys want me to cover? I've pretty much already gone over Bitcoin and the total market cap and Bitcoin dominance, so start sharing all your favorite altcoins and I'll start covering as many as I possibly can. So, oh man, now we're getting a whole bunch of birthday wishes. Thank you, Crystal, Mira, and 4QTube. I appreciate that. Can I look at Sui and Tau? Yeah, let's look at Sui. So Sui is exactly what you want to see and a good leader for the crypto markets. You can see how strong the uptrend is already throughout 2024 and 2025. We have a very nice established uptrend here for this coin, and I believe we're going to continue to go higher here based on this uptrend. So let's go ahead and do like an 8-day time frame. And we'll just look at this. So you can see higher high, higher low kind of pattern here. So you definitely want to continue or expect this trend to continue as a result of this higher high, higher low pattern. And this is a very strong uptrend. Like I was just saying, it's got a good, nice momentum to it. And I think we are going to continue to see more upside. So what you want to understand about uptrends is they do continue most of the time. Like most of the time you're going to get a continuation of that uptrend. There will be bear markets, there will be corrections along the way, at least within the context of a bull market. So like when Bitcoin is in a bull market, 90% of these coins are going to continue to make higher highs and higher lows. Obviously, once Bitcoin tops out, then some of the altcoins are going to die off and a lot of them won't continue in their uptrend. But overall, for the most part, the trend is your friend and you want to expect it to continue, especially when Bitcoin is in such a strong established uptrend, right? That's a huge green light go for the rest of the markets. So what I see with SUI here is a lot like early day Bitcoin in 2017. So as you guys can see, let's stretch the chart out just a little bit here. When Bitcoin was really establishing its uptrend before it went really parabolic right here from like 3,000 all the way up to 20,000 and had its big blow off top. That's what that's called, is a blow off top, where the price goes up so fast and so quickly that the market kind of has like a blow off top where it just can't sustain that type of growth any longer, right? We call it a blow off top. So before that blow off top happened, it was still forming its uptrend and still establishing its uptrend. And actually, these first two corrections were rather large. You can see they were pretty big corrections. I remember a lot of people got really scared right here and right here, and a lot of people tried to call the top both times here in 2017, where they really thought the top of the Bitcoin bull market was for sure in both of these times right here. And for SUI, really it's kind of the same thing. It's got a lot of the same attitude to it, where the market's having these big corrections early on, and it has a support and resistance flip as well. You can see that support and resistance flip, just like what happened over here on Bitcoin. So what I think could happen with SUI is a continuation of this uptrend and another big run in this market, which could be very similar to what happened to Bitcoin from $2,000 per coin, basically 3,000, just a little under 3,000 actually, all the way up to 20,000. Now obviously SUI is only worth $3, so I'm not saying SUI is going to go to 20,000 per coin, but the same kind of a run in the market where it really goes parabolic and gets really vertical in nature looks like it is set up for this chart for SUI. So that's what I'd be looking at here with SUI. Watch for that kind of parabolic run, that kind of a bigger breakout. Obviously, in the very, very short term, we could pull back a little bit with Bitcoin testing its all-time high. We don't have to. We could break out right now, you know. But Bitcoin is right at its all-time high resistance right now. If we go over here on Bitcoin. So it's definitely possible for us to do like a little rejection here at the all-time high resistance. We don't have to. We can break right up through this, but just so you know, we are at all-time high resistance. I don't think this is grounds to just go sell all your crypto and try to swing trade a little move down or anything like that. But just for your own awareness, we are at all-time high resistance on Bitcoin, so it's at least possible for us to pull back a little bit here before going higher. I think we will go higher though and push right up through resistance because kind of how much momentum there is in the market right now. So if we do pull back a little bit, I think it'll be short-lived. And we don't have to either. Just so you know, we can push right up through that resistance. There's nothing that says that every time you hit resistance you have to pull back, but you definitely want to be aware of resistance levels, especially all-time high resistance levels, because sometimes the market can have a little bit of a correction at those levels before it pushes through those levels. So that's my view on SUI. Watch for a big upward move coming for this coin. Now let's look for Tau, or look at Tau, I mean, and look for what the chart is showing us here. Let's go ahead and see if we can find a better chart. One with more data. Is it? There we go. That's what we're looking for here. So Tau has pretty clear Elliott wave structure. We have wave 1 right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we get our ABC correction down here. A, B, and C. And so this really looks like a very, very clear wave 1 and wave 2 structure before this market goes higher. And if we turn the volume on here, you can see that there is plenty of volume for us to see another wave up here in this market. So with our 5 waves up and our ABC down, then I think we will get a wave 3 coming as a result of that. So this will all be a wave 1 and a wave 2 impulse preparing for a wave 3. And actually this is a pretty common kind of structure in the market to have a correction there right at the start. I mean, there's a lot of different examples of coins that had to do this early on before they took off. Trying to think of the best example off the top of my head. One good example is like SUI over here. SUI had to have a correction in its wave 1 before it had a wave 3, as you can see. So if you just look at these two charts, here is not SUI, Solana. I'm sorry. Solana over here and Tensor over here on the left. You can see that Solana had this big wave 1 impulse, then it had a big correction here before wave 3 happened. So it's pretty common. I mean, this is what Elliott wave theory is all about, that there's going to be corrections before the next bullish impulse. And understand that helps you understand when that correction is happening, what you should be doing with your money. Should you be buying more? Should you be selling? Well, if you're in wave 2, you should probably be buying more of that coin, because wave 3 is extremely profitable and very vertical. And you can see that's exactly what happened here with Solana, was a big, huge wave 3 after wave 2 was done. You had a very impulsive wave 3. So that's what I see here with Tensors, that we do have wave 1 and wave 2 in this market, and that we are getting ready for a 3-wave impulse. And the wave 2 is going to look different. It's not always going to be a triangle like it was here with Solana. It was a triangle pattern. With Solana, sometimes it's just an ABC correction. You know, sometimes you just have an ABC, and then the market goes higher. Just like Tensor over here. It doesn't have to be a triangle every time just because that's what happened on Solana, but you can expect wave 2 to happen a good majority of the time. So that's my view on Tensor. I think we will have a nice run up here in value. Obviously, expect some corrections along the way up. You know, there's always corrections along the way up, even if they're small. There's always profit taking along the way up, but I do think a parabolic run will happen for this coin. So be watching for that. Okay, let's see here. We already did SUI. Megamind, we just did SUI, so I don't know if you just missed that part, but we just ran over SUI. So Light Clothed says, happy abundance, brudda. Thank you, bro. I appreciate it. John Campbell says Theta and RSR. So, as you guys know, I'm very, very bullish on Theta. I have been for a long time now. I really believe Theta is going to do what Ethereum did in 2020, basically. Something very similar to what Ethereum did. Let's pull up the other chart where we have the full data. There we go. And so in the short term, kind of the same things I've been talking about in a lot of my live streams on this coin. In a lot of my videos, we have a very clear wave 1 and wave 2 in the market, and I believe we're going to have a wave 3 very soon for this coin. So here's wave 1 and wave 2, and what we're going to see is a wave 3 coming in this coin that'll be pretty nice, because wave 3 is going to be more impulsive by nature than wave 1. So that means however exciting wave 1 was right here back in 2024, when the price of Theta went from 64 cents all the way up to $3.80, wave 3 is going to be more exciting and more profitable and more vertical than wave 1. And I just threw these down. I'm not saying that these are like exact price points for wave 3, wave 4, and wave 5. I just threw these on the chart so you have an idea that wave 3 is going to come in this market, right? And a lot of times people don't expect wave 3. They're just not looking for it. But if you look over here on Ethereum and you look at the structure that Ethereum did in 2019, you'll see what I mean by people not expecting wave 3 in the market. Let's go with 8-day. So here's Ethereum in 2019 right here. And let's get these charts lined up a little bit better here, so you can see what I mean. Almost nobody expected a big bullish impulse wave on Ethereum. COVID had just happened, so everybody was super afraid that the markets were going to have some massive bear market because this global pandemic had started and everybody was wearing masks and the news was like crazy and everybody was in this state of fear, total fear, during the coronavirus drop in 2020, in March of 2020. And the markets had dropped like 50%. You know, if you look at the markets, they had dropped like Ethereum dropped 68% right there in a single month. But the thing is, markets price in news very quickly. So by the time everybody thought that a multi-year bear market was coming, the bottom was already in. And then a massive bull market came right after. This is why if you do trade news, you have to be very careful. Because markets price in news very quickly. Again, in March of 2020, everybody expected a multi-year bear market. And yes, there was a correction in the market, but it only lasted 1 month. It was very short-lived. And then the market recovered, and actually the markets went vertical during a global pandemic. During one. It was only right when the pandemic started that everybody freaked out and panic sold. That's how quickly that the market priced in that move. That's how quickly it priced it in. And so people today have very similar fears about a multi-year bear market coming for crypto, for altcoins, for everything. And what they don't realize is that the market prices in major world events very quickly. So what I think is going to happen for Theta here is a very bullish wave 3, just like what happened over here on Ethereum in 2020, where Ethereum broke out and had a parabolic run, and a very, very parabolic run as a result of wave 3 coming in this market. So that's what I see coming for Theta, as a very, very parabolic kind of run. And these markets, I mean, it's crazy how similar the market looks. It's so crazy to me. ABC down, just like that. And ABC down right here as well, right? The amount of similarities between what happened in 2019 and 2020 for Ethereum and what's setting up on Theta right now is astonishing. So I think we will get a very, very big parabolic run for this coin that's going to blow people away and make a lot of people really, really rich, just like Ethereum did in 2020, where it just runs like crazy. The charts look identical, and this kind of goes to show with what I've been talking about, how human psychology repeats in these markets, and you get the same structure appearing in the market repeatedly because people have the same emotional reactions to market movement over and over again. It's a fractal of human emotion. So that's what I'm seeing for Theta. RSR, yeah, let's do RSR. So, I mean, even look at the similarities between RSR and Ethereum, right? This is what I'm talking about by markets being fractal in nature, by the same kind of patterns appearing in the market over and over again. And not, a lot of people think that this is like, oh, this is some absolute thing, and it's not. It's not like every time the market does a cycle, it's always going to look identical, but a lot of the time it does. One of the ways that I was able to call the bottom over here on Ethereum in 2019 and 2018, when Ethereum was bottoming out, was because Ethereum looked exactly like Bitcoin when I first got into Bitcoin. That's how I knew. If you look at Bitcoin over here and you pull up the Bitcoin chart and you look at Bitcoin, back in the day, I was looking at the Bitcoin chart and I was looking at the Ethereum chart and I was going, holy cow, that is the exact same chart. There's literally like no difference except that Ethereum is an altcoin. And so Ethereum had a bigger retracement because altcoins have a tendency to have a bigger bear market. So it had a bigger percentage down than Bitcoin did, because Bitcoin only had like an 84% drawdown, an 86 actually, and Ethereum had a 94% drawdown. But as far as the market structure goes, it looked identical. So back when Ethereum was literally worth $80 and everybody was all bearish on Ethereum and they were all afraid and they were all scared, I made a video about Ethereum telling people that I thought that it looked exactly like Bitcoin when I first got into Bitcoin, and Ethereum, that was the bottom of Ethereum here in 2018. And it turned around and it saw a huge bull market right after that video. Well, I mean, it kind of went sideways for a year or two, but then it really went up and went parabolic. And so understanding the fact that markets are fractal in nature, and no, not every time your fractal isn't going to play out 100% of the time. Sometimes you'll be wrong. I've used fractal comparisons before that they completely did different things than each other. But a lot of the time it works. like a good majority of the time, especially in these bigger time frames like the 8-day time frame where you're zoomed way out here and you're looking at these big picture cycles. They're going to play out most of the time. So back over to RSR. RSR is a perfect example of one of these big picture market cycles. It looks like Ethereum does. Does it not? I mean, it's the same thing, you know? It's the same ABC down. Huge bear market where people give up on it. They think it's going to go down forever. They think that it's dead. They say, oh, that coin is never going to recover. You know, it's just, that's what they said about Ethereum. That's what they said about Bitcoin. That's what they said about every single coin right after a big picture bear market happened, or even a large correction. People are emotional. We make emotional decisions and we try to justify it with faulty logic later. And some of the faulty logic that people use is, oh, I sold my coins because I was afraid. I was afraid the market was going to go lower, so I sold my coins. Now I'm going to figure out some fundamental reason, some news event, some chart that somebody made that doesn't know what they're doing to justify the fact that I sold. And that's what people do. And then they sell the bottom, and then they justify it with faulty logic later, and then they get mad at themselves, hopefully, when the market pumps. That's just human nature to do that. And that's what I would bet that a good majority of people that bought RSR up here, down here, they're going to be selling, and they're going to be in disbelief and totally not even dreaming of a big picture bull market coming, and especially not a parabolic run like what happened in 2021. That just sounds like complete insanity to them, right? But that's what happens in these markets. So, yeah, that's my view on RSR. I definitely think some big things will come for that market, for that coin. Happy birthday, Dallin. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate the birthday wish, my friend. Hold on just a second. I gotta text somebody something. Okay. Cool. A lot of positive sentiments on Onondo and Aptos. Okay, yeah, let's do it. Onondo. Cool. Looks like the last time that I did analysis on Onondo, I had drawn 5 waves up right here. And it looks like we did get a correction after those 5 waves up right there, so that's kind of cool. And then we had kind of a big parabolic run right here and another pullback. So let's kind of look at this market in the bigger picture and see what could happen here. So this is probably a running flat right here. Let's make sure that's the right Elliott wave. Yeah, it's probably a running flat Elliott wave that we see. So let's pull up an example of a running flat. So basically, we had 5 waves up right there. So let's put that back on the chart, actually. There we go. So we did have 5 waves up right here. So why did the market go higher after 5 waves up? Isn't there supposed to be an ABC correction down? Yes, there is supposed to be an ABC correction, but the type of correction that forms after 5 waves can vary. It's not always an ABC zigzag. Like if you type in ABC zigzag on Google, you'll get an example of an ABC zigzag, and you'll notice that an ABC zigzag is just this kind of continuous downward trend with a little bounce halfway up, but overall it goes down. Well, a running flat actually looks completely different than an ABC zigzag. A running flat correction looks like this. So here's an ABC zigzag right here, ABC down, like this. That's what a normal ABC correction looks like. A running flat correction looks like this. See how different that is? So yes, after 5 waves up, you're going to have a corrective structure, but that corrective structure could be a running flat, it could be an ABC zigzag, it could be an expanded flat, it could be a WXYXZ correction. This is the thing with Elliott waves. You have to understand that there isn't always an ABC zigzag after 5 waves up. And this is kind of one of the ways that the market throws a lot of people off. And even professional Elliott wave traders could be looking for an ABC correction, and then all of a sudden you get a running flat and they don't know what to do. This is why you have to update your position with new market data. So if you get something other than what you're expecting in the market, then you update your view on the market based on the new market data, and you do your best to adjust your analysis with new market information. And that's one of the reasons the worst thing you can do is panic sell, because imagine what happens to people that panic sell their coin at the bottom of wave A right before a huge wave B happens because they're expecting a deeper correction. And this kind of stuff happens all the time in the markets. And that's why it's so important to understand Elliott wave theory and understand the different structure that can happen in the market. So here with Ondo, you have 5 waves up, and then you get an A, B, C correction. Yes, but it's a running flat correction. That's what this is. It's a running flat Elliott wave. You can see right here is an example of one of those running flats, or even right here is a running flat correction. So that's what we see here with Ondo as a running flat correction, and what can happen as a result of this correction is a huge bullish impulse, because it does just like what would happen after a normal ABC zigzag. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A, B, and C. This is a running flat correction, okay? And what happens is just like what would happen after a normal ABC correction. So let's draw a normal one over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A, B, and C. So that's a normal zigzag correction. So here's expanded or running flat. And here is a regular zigzag correction. Okay. Now, what happens after is the same. You get another bullish impulse wave. So this all turns into wave 1 and wave 2. So this becomes wave 1 and wave 2, and you go for another bullish Elliott wave in the market. And it's the same thing that happens to a zigzag correction, a normal ABC zigzag. You get a wave 3. So under both circumstances, even though you get 2 different corrections, the same result happens where you get a wave 3 in the market. So what we're looking for here with Ondo is wave 3. This is all a big picture wave 1 and wave 2. Wave 1 right here, and wave 2 right here, and then a big picture wave 3 should be coming soon for this coin. So that's my view on Ondo. Bro, tell me we're going down this weekend, please. You know, Matthew, in the short term, it's possible for us to go down a little bit. I don't think it's grounds to like sell a whole bunch of your crypto. And I'm not even saying it's going to happen, but it is possible. We are at major all-time high resistance on Bitcoin. And we do have a doji candle right here on the 8-day time frame. So it's definitely possible for us to pull back a little bit before pushing higher. But I don't think we're going to have a big correction. If we do pull back here at all, I think it'll be very short-lived and very small. But it is possible for a little bit of profit taking to happen up here at our old all-time high. It's just, it's pretty common for that kind of thing to happen at an old all-time high level. So I'm not saying it's going to, but it's possible for it to happen. So Matt Osty, what's up, my friend? Smash the like, share this post on X. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you getting everybody to go share my posts. I already responded to that. Never mind. Tech Dude says, happy birthday. Thank you. I appreciate that, my friend. Let's see here. So, let's do Aptos. So actually, the last time that I did analysis on this, it really hasn't changed at all. My view on Aptos is exactly the same as what it was previously. So we have a wedge structure here, and I personally think we're going to see a very strong reaction off the bottom of this wedge that should take us right up to our previous old resistance right here, this downward trending resistance. And if we can push through that level, then we're going to have a very, very big upward move for this coin. So watch for a big kind of bounce off these lower levels down here, anywhere between $5 and $3.75. Watch for us to bottom out in that range, and a breakout up towards our resistance level at around $12. Then I'd be watching for a breakout through that level at $12. I've seen a lot of wedge structures just like this, just exactly like this, where the market does a wedge like this, and people get thrown around inside of the wedge. They don't know what's happening. They're wondering why it's so choppy. They're like, why is the market doing this? How come it's pumping and dumping? How come it's doing all of this crazy market movement? They don't understand why the market's doing what it's doing. And then it bottoms out, it breaks out, and you get a big parabolic run right after that wedge kind of finishes forming, right? So something like this, if you draw the wedge like that and like this, you can see what I'm talking about, right? So that's my view on Aptos. I think we will get a nice parabolic run up off of those lows, and it will potentially, I think it's very possible for us to break out up above these local resistance levels and for us to have a very big move as a result of that falling wedge. Can I take a look at Nero? Yes. Let's look at Nero. Nero. Oh man. Look at that. I like that a lot. So, big correction, big spook. You know, everybody's scared. Everybody thinks it's dead. A lot of people probably are not dreaming of a recovery. They're thinking, "Oh, this thing is done for. It's dead. No way will it ever do a bull market again." But we actually have almost more volume now than we did when we first got started. Not quite. When we very first got started, we had more volume, but we certainly have more volume now than we did through this area here, and especially this area. So to have increasing price and increasing volume at the same time, that's actually very bullish to see that. If we pull up our volume rules for analysis here, you can see if price is rising and volume is rising, then the market is strong. And what we do see down here, if we zoom in right here, we do have increasing price and volume down here. Volume increasing and price is increasing as well. So that's actually bullish to see that. And I think what we're going to see here with Nero is more upside. So what this would be in terms of an Elliott wave structure would be wave 1. We could go a little lower here for wave 2, but at some point we're going to bottom for wave 2, and then we'll get a 3 wave coming for Nero, and then a 5th wave as well. And a lot of times what ends up happening is something like this, you guys. And then an ABC down, wave A, wave B, and wave C. And then something like this. 1, 2, and then another 3 wave, right? And that's how these markets can recover after these big, brutal corrections where nobody thinks it's going to recover from it. They just start making higher highs and higher lows. And then they slowly build up enough momentum to get above their 1 wave right here, the top of their 1 wave right here. And then once they get above the top of their 1 wave, wave 3 is very parabolic. And that's how you can have a recovery after a big correction like this. And, you know, if you haven't ever seen anything like that before, just look at the Ethereum chart over here. Or look at Bitcoin and its very first cycle ever. The very first Bitcoin cycle ever. Same thing. Same structure. The market just started to make higher highs and higher lows. And then once it broke out of wave 1, that wave 3 started, and wave 3 is a lot of fun. Wave 3 is really fun. So wave 3 is almost as fun as wave 5. In fact, sometimes it's more fun because even though you do get extended 5th waves in crypto, not all of them are extended 5th waves. It's just most of them are. So sometimes wave 3 is even bigger, you know. But you can see how the market can have these big, brutal corrections, and then it just slowly builds up enough momentum, and then one day it breaks out, pushes right up through that old all-time high, and goes nuts again. And that's the last thing people expect. That's exactly why it happens, because nobody expects it. They just see a big crash and they think, oh, look, that thing is dead. It's never going to come back. It's done for. But what they don't expect is a big recovery. And this is exactly what happened during the internet bubble. Everybody talks about the internet bubble popping. Everybody says, oh, don't you guys remember in the early 2000s when the internet bubble popped and everybody lost a bunch of money? But nobody talks about how the internet bubble completely recovered. Here's the internet bubble right here. That's all everybody ever talks about. But nobody ever talks about this. Look what happened after the internet bubble popped. Look at that recovery in the market. That's what you have to understand. That's what you need to keep in your mind when you're seeing these big corrections in crypto, and especially with the altcoin markets like Popcat, for example. Popcat, people will be so bearish on a coin like Popcat, right? And few people will be looking at the uptrend in the bigger picture and thinking, man, we got to go to deck screener actually for the chart on this one. Few people will be looking at a coin like this and thinking, oh, this is a good buy. They're just going to be thinking of, hey, Popcat crashed so hard. Look at all those dumb investors. That's what they're thinking, you know? Just like what happened to everybody during the internet bubble when it popped and they were all mocked. They were all like, oh, look at all those dumb investors. They tried to invest in the internet. You know, what dummies. They tried to invest in this fad called the internet. It's just a fad. It's, look at the market's crashed. It's never coming back. And then look what happened to the internet. That's how we're having this live stream right now, is because of the internet. Right? And the same is true for crypto. People and people right now, especially because of 2021 and 2022, really, when the markets crashed really, really hard and we had like a crypto bubble pop, a lot of people are still in that phase, like a good majority of the public are still in that phase where crypto is something to make fun of. They're starting to come around a little bit because of Bitcoin. They see that it hit 100K and they're like, oh, maybe there is something to this. But for the most part, crypto is still a joke, and people still think it's a fad, and people still think it's never going to recover, and that it's just kind of done for. Donald Trump changed that a little bit, talking about Bitcoin a lot, you know. But overall, a lot of people still kind of have this attitude about crypto. But they have the same attitude about the internet bubble. That's what a lot of people don't realize. They had the same attitude about the internet bubble in 2003 after the markets had crashed, and nobody ever talks about the recovery. They just still talk about this bubble pop. And it shows you what most people in the world are focused on. Most people are making the most of the bad and the least of the good, when you should be making the least of the bad and the most of the good. That's what you should be doing. That's the mindset that you should have with a lot of this stuff, because the internet bubble did recover and we did get a huge parabolic run, and we did have massive institutional adoption and adoption by the general public with the internet after it popped. So keep in mind, you know, that's what could happen for crypto as well. And here with Popcat, I see a very similar kind of thing in the bigger picture as what I've been talking about with a lot of these coins. Huge crash. A lot of people get scared. A lot of people get fearful. But then think of how big the recovery could be for this coin on wave 3. We have wave 1, wave 2. Imagine what wave 3 could look like. How parabolic wave 3 could be. If how profitable wave 1 was right here, imagine wave 3 for this coin. Good day, Mr. Dallin. Are you still holding Wrapped Dog? Not much of a recovery yet. So yeah, let's do some analysis on Wrapped Dog. So we did get a nice bounce up off of these lows. And now we're having a bit of a pullback, but that's totally normal. You know, that's totally what you expect to have happen. In fact, let's pull up the Wrap Dog chart here on Mexi. So you see here, I have this line, this crazy line drawn up. But the first thing I did when I drew that line is a correction going down. And the reason for that is when you get a big vertical parabolic breakout like that, after a big correction like we saw here with Wrapped Dog, it's probably not going to be sustainable. You're probably going to get some type of a pullback before you go higher. But let me show you what happened to Bitcoin over here, because I've been comparing Wrapped Dog to Bitcoin for quite some time because they look very similar. And it's important to understand what can happen here at the bottom of corrections. So here with Bitcoin over here on the right and with Wrapped Dog over here on the left, you can see Bitcoin, when Bitcoin had its big ABC correction down, you can see what happened was there was a big bounce down off the bottom. Then we had a pullback right here, another bounce, and another pullback. Before we had our true breakout, before we had our real breakout that started leading to a bull market. Now here with Wrapped Dog, if we zoom out on Wrapped Dog as well, and we'll use like a 4-day time frame, maybe even a little bit smaller actually, 3-day, 2-day, something like that. There we go. Same thing. Wrapped Dog did an ABC correction, just like Bitcoin over here. Same thing, right? ABC down. Wave A, wave B, and wave C. Wave A, wave B, and wave C, just like that. See, same correction down. And now we're starting to see the signs of an early recovery here for Wrapped Dog. But don't be surprised if the market has to pull back down to support, before it bounces back up again, and maybe even pulls back again before we get our real true breakout that's sustainable, that starts that uptrend that we're looking for this coin. Will we make a new all-time low? I don't know. We could. But it also wouldn't surprise me if we bottom out right here. I mean, look at all the volume down here. There's a lot of interest in Wrapped Dog down at these prices because it's virtually worthless. I mean, it's in terms of what it used to be worth up here, it's worth practically nothing. So a lot of people are coming and seeing this and they're saying, look, this thing is extremely undervalued. There's a huge ABC correction. There's a massive community here and they're interested in it. And you can see it in the volume, just like how they were interested in Bitcoin when Bitcoin started getting near its bottom down here in 2015. Huge spikes in volume, right, on Bitcoin. And we really do see the same thing happening over here with Wrapped Dog, where we have huge amounts of volume down here when it's after the big correction happened, because that's where the bigger players are actually interested in picking up more of that coin, because it's extremely undervalued down there. So I do think we will get a recovery in this market. It could bounce around a little bit longer, but at some point we're going to see that kind of a vertical move. This starts the uptrend. This starts the higher high, higher low pattern that leads to a big upward move that is very profitable for this coin. So that's what I'm watching for Wrapped Dog. Do you think Pixel on Binance can recover to a new all-time high? I don't know. Let's look. Yeah, I do, honestly. So we have the biggest volume spike it's ever seen down here, which is really good to have that happen. And again, just like what I've been saying about all of these different coins, people see a big correction like this, and all they think about is the fact that the market's going to go down forever. But that's not the truth. The truth is that a lot of times after a big correction like this, you get a big recovery in the market. And A lot of times you get a very, very profitable move. This happens right here because of the fact that the bigger institutions and the bigger whales want to pick it up dirt cheap. So they let all of the retail FOMO, they let all of the dumb money buy in, they let all of the noobs buy the top, and then a big 90% correction happens, and they pick up stupid amounts of it. They steadily accumulate all through this area right here. That's why it looks like it's low volume. That's big institutions continuously accumulating as price goes down, just picking up a little, picking up a little, picking up a little. And then you see a huge spike in volume. And that big spike in volume a lot of time does come from the big whales too, because they see it being worth practically nothing, and they just put massive amounts of capital into it. And then you get a big recovery and a big vertical move in the market. And when that big vertical move happens, people are blown away. They're like, whoa, how is that even possible? Well, you guys got screwed by the cycle. That's how it's possible. If you would have understood the market cycle, you would have bought the dip down here where people were skeptical, where people were cynical, and they thought it was going to go down forever. You would have taken advantage of the super cheap prices, just like the big whales and the big players are doing. So yeah, can this go up to its old all-time high? Absolutely. Yes, it can. It's been worth $1 before. So its market cap can clearly be worth that, at least. That's not unreasonable. And yeah, I think that it will see a recovery down here. And in fact, if we pull up the MACD, and by the way, this is the last coin I'm doing for the day because I'm getting ready to do some music stuff with my friend. You can see here on the MACD, we do have massive bullish divergence. Huge bullish divergence here on the 2-day for the MACD, where price makes a lower low and the indicator makes a higher low. So that's a huge, huge buy signal for that coin. Oh, shoot. Actually, my friend might be a couple more minutes before he shows up to do music stuff with him. Todd Brown says, happy birthday. Well, thank you, Todd. I appreciate that. 28 years old now. When I first started this channel, I was 18. Either 18 or 19. I haven't perfectly did the math yet, but I'm pretty sure I was 18, which is kind of crazy. So, happy birthday. Patu G. Okay, I'll do it. I'll do one of your coins, but my friend is on his way here soon to do some music stuff with me today. So I will probably not do any more. I'll do one coin, one final coin here, and then we'll call it a day. Let's do Omi Kami. Omi Kami? I think that's how you say that. Omi Kami. Omi Kami. Okay. All right. So this looks like this might be, maybe it's a meme coin. I don't know. I'm not for sure on what this coin is, but we do see an inverse head and shoulders, which is really good. So, in fact, let me show you something that kind of cued me into Pepe. Let's pull up Pepe over here on the right. So I made a video about Pepe right at the bottom of its entire cycle down here before Pepe went all the way up to its all-time high over here. Before it went all the way up there and had its big parabolic run, I made a video about Pepe right here. And one of the things that cued me into Pepe, I made the video like right here. It's called like top best 3 meme coins or something for 2024. Something like that is the title of the video. You can go find it. And one of the coins that I covered in that video was Pepe. And I was talking about how Pepe did this perfect inverse head and shoulders pattern. It hadn't broke out yet. It was like right here. It looked like this. Okay. Perfect inverse head and shoulders pattern. Looked really, really bullish. Looked like it was going to just completely skyrocket and take off. You see left shoulder here, head, and right shoulder. And what happened to Pepe, and if we look at Omi Kami right here, look at that inverse head and shoulders. It is the same thing. Same exact structure in the market. Exactly the same. And look what happened to Pepe as a result of its... Oops. There we go. Look what happened to Pepe as a result of its inverse head and shoulders. So if we press play right here on Pepe, look at that pump that came afterwards. That's how powerful the inverse head and shoulders pattern is. It's right up there with one of the most profitable patterns in the entire book of patterns that you can know. And it's also extremely common in crypto. And what kind of cues you in to that it's time to buy is once you break above the neckline. So this white dotted line right here, that's the neckline. And when you break above the neckline, that signals that it's time to buy. So for this coin over here, I'd watch for a break above the neckline. The neckline is like 0.037 cents. If we can get above that, that's a green light go for Omi Kami. Kind of a hard name to say. For Omi Kami. And that would be a really good sign for this coin that we could have a big parabolic run as a result of that inverse head and shoulders, especially if you get increasing volume upon the breakout like we saw with Pepe here. Really good sign. So yeah, cool. Thank you guys for tuning in to today's live stream. And I appreciate you. It is my birthday, but last week I did get requested to play a specific song for you guys called Here Comes the Moon. It's my personal remix of Here Comes the Sun. Since everybody talks about the moon in crypto, right? If something's going to moon, we call it, or if something's going to go up in value, we call it mooning. And last week somebody requested that I play Here Comes the Moon on my guitar and sing it for you guys. But the only problem was I didn't have my guitar that week. So, as promised by that person that asked me last week, even if you're not here, I guess maybe you'll watch it later. Let's do Here Comes the Moon on the guitar. Google Docs. Let's see here. Here Comes the Moon. So funny how you guys love this song so much. I just wrote it randomly one day for fun. Remix, I guess. A parody. Parody might be the correct term for it. It's a parody of Here Comes the Sun. I do get copywritten, not strikes, but I get shared revenue. So every time I do it, all of my revenue from the live stream, like most of it goes to the label that owns Here Comes the Sun, even though it's a parody of it, but whatever. Eric says, you are the best free YouTube channel in crypto. Huge thanks. Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Thank you for helping us on your birthday. Yeah, I was happy to do a stream today. You know, one of the best things I've learned that like doing these live streams is extremely fulfilling for me. So even though it's my birthday, like I wanted to do this because it's like extremely fulfilling to do this. So cool. Here we go. Here's my guitar. So you know what's crazy about this guitar? I was in Florida hanging out with my web developer in Florida, and he's like, hey, we should go to the guitar store or whatever. And I was like, okay, that sounds like fun. So we went to the music store and I started looking at guitars and I saw this guitar, and this guitar is sweet. It's called a Kepma. It's like a over $2,000 guitar. It's like a really nice guitar, and it has like this cool effect on it where you can turn delay on. Like, listen to this. So I don't even have to have an amplifier, and I can turn this effect on. Hear that? That's a delay effect. So I can do like, right? And I don't even have to have an amplifier to do this crazy delay effect that it has. So I was like, I need to buy this guitar. So I just bought it, right? Well, I got a guitar case for it, but it wasn't like a hard guitar case. It was like a soft one. So I get on the airplane and I get home and I'm like all excited to pull out my new guitar, and I open up the case and I look at it, and the neck was snapped. Like, it was completely snapped in half. And I was like, no way. Like, my neck is snapped? Like, I just bought this new guitar and it was like thousands of dollars. Like, this sucks so bad, right? But I was like, okay, something, maybe I can get it fixed. Maybe I have warranty or whatever, Well, I'd let my web developer know, and I was sitting there thinking like, this is the worst thing ever, But he was like, there's a reason that your guitar broke. And I thought, I was like thinking, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. My web developer, like, what the heck are you saying? There's no reason. I've heard some pretty crazy hippy dippy stuff about people telling me that there's a reason this happened, man. So I was like, okay, that sounds like ridiculous, it's like, whatever, okay. But 2 weeks later, I was with another friend of mine. We were talking about different things, and my guitar got brought up, and I was like, yeah, the neck on this thing is broken. Just barely bought it. It's like the greatest guitar ever, And he was like, okay, well, actually, there's this guy that builds guitars here in my hometown. And he's like, you need to go talk to him. But I was like, whatever, whatever. So I get to his place, show him my guitar, and he sees the neck on it, and he fixed it for me for like nothing. Like, it was like $50 or something. He fixed it. Plus, I got to meet this guy that builds guitars, handcrafted guitars that I own. Therefore, now I own 3 of his guitars, or 2 of them, I think, actually only 2 of his handcrafted guitars that he builds himself. So there was a reason that I broke the neck on my guitar. Crazy, right? All right, here we go. Here comes the moon, and then I'm calling it a stream. So I'm getting text messages. My friend might be at the front door and can't get in. Okay, here we go. Also, I've never used this mic before, so I don't know exactly how it's going to come through, but we'll just do it anyways. Here comes the moon, do-do-do-do. Here comes the moon, and I say, it's alright. Little darling, it's been a long, cold crypto winter. Little darling, it feels like years since a bull market was here. Here comes the moon, do-do-do-do. Here comes the moon, and I say, it's alright. Little darling, the gains are returning to our portfolios. Little darling, it seems like years since I made 100x. Here comes the moon, do-do-do-do. Here comes the moon, and I say, it's alright. Moon, 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 here it comes. 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 Little darling, I feel that sentiment is slowly shifting. Little darling, it seems like years since alt season was here. Here comes the moon, do-do-do-do. Here comes the moon, and I say, it's alright. Here comes the moon, do-do-do-do. Here comes the moon, and I say, it's alright. There you go, you guys. Here comes the moon. I really believe it. We are going to have a lot more upside for crypto, and it is going to be a heck of a lot of fun. And for the people that are brave enough to hold on and buy more, I think you guys are going to be really happy that you did. So thank you for tuning in. I love you guys. I appreciate you. And as always, stay profitable out there.